Oh, okay. Well, it's going again, so maybe it can only handle 30 minutes at a time.
Well,
It's not a video cam or anything.
I guess I will touch on a couple of my interests outside of music. The things that I'm interested in outside of music, I mean, obviously, my involvement within the trance scene. I mean, I love doing that. But the other thing that I've been big into for a very, very long time has been cars. Being in the car scene. What? Yeah, so I mean, I like driving a modified, I like track cars, I like driving a modified car myself. And even before I was like really heavily involved within the DJ scene, how I am, I was involved with like the car scene and car culture, which had a very similar explosion too. And ironically enough, what was funny is that we had this really tight-knit underground culture where it was all about the passion, and I mean, it had a lot of structure, and like everybody knew how things were supposed to be. Then this SFX, this movie came around called The Fast and the Furious. And they did exactly to our import culture what SFX and the whole circus has done to dance music culture. It had made it swell immensely. It made it an immediate hot flash cash cow where everybody wanted to jump onto the bandwagon because it's money and it's now and it's hot and it's trendy. And but just like a lot like dance music though, it is like it needs structure. There's a way things are supposed to be. So when you start doing really stupid things to cars, like in the car world, what you call cheese music is you call the car riced out, right? So you get this wave of people that came in with cheese. They cheesed out their cars, And it was primarily because of Paramount. And the funny thing is, I'm a moderator for a really large automotive website. Got about 80,000 members called HoustonImports.com, which is really big considering, how you're probably not going to get big boards like that anymore because alternatively you can just make a Facebook fan page, right? As opposed to running your own beat bullets in a web board. We had about 80,000 members, and in doing so, we had but that was a swell that went from I'd say about 8 or 10,000, and then the Fast and Furious came out, and then it jumped to about 60,000, it's about 80,000 now. So a company called APC became the $1 billion parts company, and they made cheese. They made really cheap ugly, those chrome tail lights that you saw everybody put on there, or the little windshield, those LEDs that went on the windshield washers or on the tire valve stems. Those are just really cheap to manufacture things that made people who didn't know any better think they could modify the car and do it within something that they could afford. And obviously it was kind of marketed and promoted from these movies of Hollywood are seen. In doing so, at HoustonImports.com, we knew Craig Lieberman, the guy who did the casting call for all the cars. So basically, he picked all the cars that were supposed to be in the movie. And just like a lot of what's going on in the industry for music, he'd come back to Paramount and said, these are the cleanest cars. These are like the best cars to put in here. And Paramount said, but they look a little not Hollywood. Put a bunch of goofy stuff on them, They'll make people that don't know any better think they're cool, Make them shoot different colored flames and all this totally unrealistic stuff. And he's like, well, you hired me as an advisor, you're paying me a lot of money, this is my advice, and you're Paramount, and you're going to do what you're going to do. And of course, the movie just blew up, got massively popular, put a completely different spin on the scene, kind of ruined our scene. We thought so. But, doesn't this sound interesting, right? And yes, APC they claimed to be $1 billion company. It's like SFX came to be $1 billion company. But the thing is, when something's that superficial and you're trying to speak on behalf of a diverse culture that has a lot of history, you can't just come along and put that in a bottle and say that you set the standard for what this scene is. Because it seems like that's not what this is, just because we're outnumbered by, these teeny bopper ravers doesn't mean that's how the scene is, So eventually what ended up happening is the bubble burst, APC filed for bankruptcy, SFX, and there was a fallout. And and so for everything that we hated and despised about what it brought, the reality is it brought a whole bunch of money in the direction that hadn't been there. So for everything that we didn't like that we were obligated to, we did realize that there were Japanese cars in the American market that the manufacturer said, we can't sell these cars here. That's why they weren't being sold here. Like the Subaru WRX, the Mitsubishi Lancer Evolution, like I drive, the Nissan GTR. Those were cars that they thought they couldn't sell here, so we couldn't get. And so we'd loan for these cars that we could play in video games, but we can't really have. And so it created a market that brought quality goods that we were interested in to a market that wouldn't have been otherwise. And I mean, I think what we're seeing about that now is kind of a little bit of that is we're experiencing a little bit of boom as people settle in, and some people jump off the hype train because it's not what, some of these kids that are looking around and jumping music that we didn't like, we've been around long enough to take a look around and say, hey, there's other stuff, right? So, I mean, I kind of see that happening a little bit in the music industry right now because you see things that I think have a lot more quality and substance to them. Like Deep House is getting a big push, and I like a lot of Deep House. And you see this huge techno explosion, which a lot of people think, the reality is it's exploding, and a lot of the techno people are kind of beating their chest. But the reality is it's these kids that knew nothing about techno 5 years ago helping to swell this portion of the scene. So, I mean, So I'm sure that there's a lot of people within techno, they're like, oh no, we're the next to be commercialized, But at the same point in time, you got that other one that wants to stick with a hardcore underground vibe. But the thing is, it's bringing attention to different areas, and it's giving drum and bass a chance to have some success. And I kind of think that trance music had got swept to the side for a lot of the circus. And that's what I think that Dream State and things like that are doing, and I kind of like the fact that they're really small because you can get a lot of big festivals doing nice big EDC or whatever, but you know what, the thing is, it's small, it's coveted, and it's cultured, so you're going to get a real trance experience at the show. You're going to understand what's special about trance to people who love trance. And I do like the fact that it's so small because there is a certain feeling of, it sold out so quick, right? Had a little bit of a feeling of exclusivity to it, right? Sold out quick. A lot of people were jealous that we went. So they got this other one coming up. So, I mean, is it going to make it a big circus thing? No, it's not. But what I think it's going to do is attract a lot of quality attention in our direction. That helps.
I hope so. I mean, they seem interested to solicit our opinions because, I got that, little survey or whatever that Insomniac sent out. I'm like, man. If they could just have maybe buy-in, I think that'd be good enough for me. Do something buy-in,
Yeah, you don't want to overdo it. You don't want to overdo it, and you look at SFX, part of the reason that they're looking to file for bankruptcy is because they're over $30 million in debt. I thought $300 million in debt with about $60 million in working capital. That's what it is. So they're in a huge hole, and they tried to have a fire sale. They tried to go private again. And the thing is I mean, the guy that runs this SFX, if you read and you dig, I mean, he actually said that he jumped into this. The financials made sense to him, but when it came to actual dance music, he had no idea what he was doing. Everything else about the investment seemed to make sense, though. But the thing is that dance music is so diversified over so many genres, you can't put it in a bottle for that. It's so diversified over so many countries that both legally and logistically you can't put it in a bottle, right? And therefore it has so many international traits that give it its flavor, right? You can't just put that in a bottle. I mean, when you sit there and say, when you compare it to the commercial radio standard, what we were all brainwashed on, to realize that there's probably 30 or 40 people who dictate every sound that goes on the airwaves. That is completely compressed and put in a bottle. And what people who don't think that the dance music model makes sense to is because you were raised to know nothing more than this is what you have to pick from. The coloring in between the lines of what's on the radio station is all that exists. Period. That's it. What you like, you get to pick from in here, and a group of less than 50 people pick this. You can't do that for dance music. You can't do that for dance music, and that's why you take trance. Trance, it changes its sound so much. It rolls with the punches. When dubstep got crazy big, a lot of trance forms started having dubstep elements to them. Big room got big. You got your W&W stuff, and you get your cheesy trance, right? And I don't care for it either, but that's what it is. Techno, when way back, early, 15, 16 years ago, when techno was still big, when Carl Cox was winning world's greatest DJs, a lot of the trance I listen to, even now, you look at Mark Sherry stuff coming out, you're going back to when there were techno elements in trance. So we're getting back to that, which is really cool. Lange, his Create podcast, he touched on that a little bit, and Mark Cherry, and a couple other things they got going. So that's why Max Graham came out with Cycles Radio, because even though house became before techno, if you talk to anybody, anyone in this room, a handful of years ago that weren't involved, and you show them some electronic music, regardless of what it is, they're going to say, "Oh, that's that techno music, right?"
I love her hair.
Yeah. They're going to say that's that techno music.
Sorry.
Yeah, that's good. They're not going to say, "Oh, that's house music," right? I mean, how many times have you heard that? From whenever you're something, all techno sounds the same. How many times have we heard that?
Keep
So
talking.
yeah.
I'm trying to figure this out. I feel so technologically illiterate.
Yeah.
Wait,
Technologically challenged?
yeah.
There you go.
Tripping over my tongue here.
But yeah, it was a cycle that you're coming back to, techno being the big powerhouse. I mean, I think that was a cycle, and that's Max Graham's idea behind the Cycles movement and the Cycles radio and the Cycles album.
Oh, I feel stupid. I was like trying to press it in. I just had to.
And you rotate it.
Okay.
It happens.
There we go.
So, I don't know. I mean, it's just, there's a lot to observe, you know? And I mean...
I think things are going in an interesting direction. I just want to touch on something you just said about things, evolving, and kids kind of like rediscovering things. And, before, I was kind of resistant to it. I almost had that jaded mentality of, oh, what are these kids doing?
I rant about it all the time, but,
it's interesting because, on YouTube and SoundCloud, I'll just check out, this different stuff with the deep house and now the tropical house. Like, I really, really, really like that now. And just the feature bass. And I know people are throwing labels and producing like crap under those.
Oh, yeah.
But there's some really experimental sounds going on, and I'm like, this is interesting.
That's
so
one
these
area.
kids are listening to. Oh, I'm sorry.
No. Yeah, I'm just kind of playing off it. You were speaking.
Oh.
Uh-oh.
My battery's low. But I'm still gonna record.
Well, we're getting pretty sure. But yeah, because what you gotta remember is all this is new to them. All this is new to them. Even the ones that are going to find trance. There's a lot of kids who could have been listening to whatever the hype train is for the last 2 to 3 years and not know anything about trance, right? But I think that's that divide of a lot of people are really quick to sit there and bash on something before they investigate it. I bash on stuff all the time, but I assure you I've listened to plenty of it to get to that consensus,
There's something going on with bass music, I think, that's really interesting. And there's a channel on YouTube that I started watching several years ago that started having a lot of different, elements, like really atmospheric based elements to it. And it's suicide shit.
Yep.
He does incorporate a lot of like drum and bass, but a lot of it's like really atmospheric and
What's funny is that these kids think this is future whatever or new whatever. But I saw somebody make a post the other day when somebody said future bass is so hot right now, and somebody had to chime in and mean like, you mean, and they're old school, right? And what's funny about that is because all these kids think it's newer, they think that they're front runners. Yeah. But dude chimes in and is like, you mean speed garage? A lot of this stuff isn't really new. And that's why I had another friend on my page tag me in a post from like a set that he did like 5 years ago. Yeah. And he's like, this was future based back then. I'm like, bro, you were future before the future. Record break this. I'm like, you are so hipster, man. You were future. But that's the truth. It's not new. These kids think it is new, but just like deep house, it's not new. But a new emphasis has been put on it. So a new creative pool has been brought to the genre. So, that's cool. So, you take the good with the bad, but, at the same point in time, with a lot of what's perceived as new that pops up, you got to give it a listen before you say anything about it,